I think what's really important is when, as a woman or a man, behavior happens that goes against your boundaries or your deal breakers, and you do not say something, it stays within you.
It's been difficult for me to see you on your phone so much. I just don't understand it.
Like, I don't judge myself at all for this stuff.
And I'm going to do this on camera on the podcast.
Okay.
I have felt as if
what we speak or what we are nervous or worried about comes true.
Finds it really difficult to see someone that I love and that is going to be the future house for our children to be consuming like a dozen Diet Cokes a day. I'm being like straight up.
I didn't really have to do much there. Yeah. I just sat there and then didn't judge him. And here's the thing you can learn from what I just did.
Let's talk about what you saw on my phone while I was on the toilet.
Oh.
You know what? While we're talking about this, let's just like talk about our real stuff right now.
Sure.
I'd love
okay.
to hear it. What I'm realizing. Now, I want to bring up a situation we had a few nights ago.
Yeah.
So this past handful of days has been weird, like intense, very odd. But I've had the story in the back of my mind for quite a while that you are addicted to your phone. And I'm not saying that's fully untrue or that is fully true, but I do know now that the way I approached it recently probably isn't the best way. And so how it happened was, this always happens at night usually. I think like when we're like low on energy, the whole pillow talking thing, you're often not likely to be loose with your words, whatever it was. Well, something like this happened to where it was bedtime. I was already half asleep. I was getting into bed. And I asked her, can you set an alarm for 7:30 tomorrow? And she's like, yeah, okay. And so assuming that she would just pick up her phone and go straight to the clock app and do the 7:30 alarm. That's what I was expecting when I like asked something like that. But then I saw her immediately go to like YouTube to check our metrics for the podcast and like other apps. And in that moment, I could have just taken that on, taken the data set, not said anything, and potentially bring it up tomorrow, the next day, whatever it was. But in that moment, I was like, you think you have a phone addiction? And then as soon as I said it, I'm like, wait, why did I just say that? I'm like, even if, she's like, yeah, I do. No matter what the reaction is, I was not of the state at like 11:30 at night to have that conversation.
Yeah, neither.
It was just wrong timing. Yeah. And then after soon as I said, I'm like, wait, why did I say that right now? Yeah. And why did I say it that way?
Yeah.
And so I'm not perfect. I still make mistakes. I still have a rough few days, and I say a comment like that. But the way you handled it, I think, was very, very good. I assume, I said it and I'm like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. Oh well, time to go bed. It's like, I'll deal with those repercussions another time.
I think I said, what makes you say that? And then you were like, I don't want to talk about it right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right.
Which is like
the worst.
What's the point of that?
Which is, and I think that why we bring this up is this happens a lot. I think there are a lot of times where you hold in an emotion or something that you haven't talked about or haven't addressed. You're noticing a pattern now, right? What Cam was probably feeling was some level of pattern that maybe he noticed me do that a couple of times. And now it's kind of like coming out in that moment, right? And then when you're, resting, your body isn't moving, your mind isn't running, and you get some space to be in the bed, and then it comes up. You're like, well, why don't I just talk about this right now? But then, your mouth puts out a check that your brain can't cash because your brain doesn't want to talk about that right now. But they just wanted you to know. They wanted you to know, listen, this is on my mind. Even though it's like quite accusatory, and it was, I had no idea what he meant by it. I mean, everybody means something different by the words that they say. Yeah. So my definition of phone addiction could be very different than Cam's definition of phone addiction, which, by the way, is exactly what we found. when we talked about it.
Yeah.
So next day rolls around, and I didn't go to bed angry at all. I think we even said our gratitudes. We end the day with gratitudes, and I just, really let it go. And I knew that he didn't mean it the way that he said it. And he's always coming from love. I always assume good intent with Cam. The next day, when we're just going about our business, we had hosted our gratitude party, which we do every day at 8 a.m. I think we were about to go get our drink, which we go to get a little Diet Coke every morning. And he drives me. And I just decided that I was going to bring it up. So the way that felt good to me to bring it up, do you remember how I brought it up?
No, I don't.
Okay. So we're in the kitchen, and it was a moment where we're just like feeling neutral, positive emotions. Everything's good. And then I went up to him and, was making sure I was touching him or holding his arms. I was just like, hey, baby, you said something last night that really hurt my feelings. And you were like, was it the phone addiction thing?
Oh shit, there we go.
And I was like, yeah, why'd you say that? And then you were like, well, and then you said what you said.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I've noticed a lot that, we say, I'll meet you out in the car, or I'll be down in a second, and then I end up waiting for like 15, 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And a few times here and there, I mean, it's okay, but just like when it happens all the time, it just gets really, really frustrating.
Yeah.
And when I go to see you and I'm like, hey, what's up? You're always on your phone. You're on like Instagram or Twitter or YouTube or something like that. And it just really frustrates me. And I see you like you're on it all the time. And yeah, I don't like when it's taking so much of your attention. That's how I said it. Mm-hmm. Is that the best way of going upon it? No, but that's how I said it. I'd love to hear how you responded.
So I was like, oh, baby, thank you so much for telling me. I think what you don't see is that I use my phone as a tool instead of my laptop a lot of the times. So I think I've noticed with you like to do work on your laptop. You like to go to your office and you have that space, whereas I do all of that everywhere I am with my phone. And I think we have two different ways of working. And this coming from my past and working at Facebook for 7 years, I would use my laptop for certain things and my phone to do writing. And so what I'm typically doing when you see me on these apps is writing captions, posting videos, writing tweets. I'm very rarely just scrolling just to scroll. I'm usually creating something when I have my phone like that. And does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does make sense, to be honest with you. Like I only associate time on social media on my phone, mm-hmm. on social media on my phone as like a distraction, because I know personally that I do a lot of the work around social media or work in general on my laptop. Yeah. And so any time on my phone is simply just entertainment. And I think I just project that onto you. I never really thought like you do a lot of the work just from your phone. And it would make sense because, I mean, you are a writer and you write 100% of the time on your phone. So it would make sense why you have more phone usage. Yeah. It's 100% possible. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do appreciate the reflection, maybe, because if you ever did feel like my phone took away from how present I was with you, then I would definitely re-examine my relationship with my phone. But do you notice that?
To be honest with you, yeah, it feels that way sometimes. I forgot what I said in the exact moment, but like in this moment, yeah. I mean, it was definitely, it's, if we're rekindling this conversation at this moment in front of the camera.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
It does feel like at least once a day, something like that happens, to where it'll be like, all right, I'll be downstairs right now. Or I literally have like food ready for you. Mm-hmm. And then it gets almost cold because it takes so long for that I'll be right down to actually happen. And sometimes I feel as if you're not prioritizing our connection. But to be honest with you, then I thought about it and I'm like, I'm kind of pushing my timeline onto you. Like I just kind of make dinner whenever. I don't ask when you're ready for dinner. I kind of just like all right, we go now without really like letting you know ahead of time. I do all these things without really checking in with you. And I'm just like assuming that you're going to be on my timeline and that you can be downstairs at any moment, which completely ignores the fact that you were such a strong contributor to our businesses and you're doing so much on that phone that actually push our businesses forward. And sometimes I just forget that. And yeah, I've just noticed that my relationship with social media, the more I use it through consumption, the less happy I feel. Just like the more external opinions that come into my mind, oftentimes not the most positive on those social medias. So I'm just assuming that it's making you worse off.
Do you notice that it is?
And then this is where I catch myself like, she's the happiest person I've ever met. Like, she's never like, can you believe this? Or none of that ever. And it's just like,
I only read you funny things.
Exactly. And so, but I think, okay, so if we take a step back from this conversation, I think what's happening is you are simply allowing me to speak all of my thoughts and feelings on it. And then oftentimes when you just give someone loving space, they'll immediately start to understand that their viewpoint or awareness they had minutes prior, months prior, may not actually be the full truth. Oftentimes you just need to give them the space to do so. And so the more, if I were to just keep on talking, I just be like, wait, well, actually you probably said this relationship with your phone. You're actually doing stuff for our business. I'm not actually giving you like good times on when we're going to eat or when we're going to leave, whatever it is. So it makes sense that you may still have, another 10 minutes of work to do, whatever it is. So oftentimes just giving other people the space to process it. And sometimes that happens live to understand what's actually taking place here allows it to all be solved.
Yeah.
And so if you were just let me ramble another 15 minutes, I'd be like, you know what? Never mind. I think your relationship with your phone's pretty good. Now, I'm not saying that for all circumstances. Like you could have done something that's obviously just not aligned and whatever it is. Right. But on this in particular, that's oftentimes what happens when if I come to you being accusatory and you decide like, hey, I feel that, but I'm going to respond with love. It oftentimes allows people to inch towards finding that love for you and love for that situation again.
Absolutely.
Now, this conversation could have gone worse. I could have in the middle of the night been like, you have a phone addiction, which many people do.
You did do that.
Did I say that?
Yes.
I said, do you think you have a phone addiction?
Oh, I guess it's a little different.
A little bit better. Not that much better. But if I could read you this whole thing, number one.
I did laugh when he said it. Because I knew, like, I understand this is something Cam's very passionate about.
Yeah.
This is something that I obviously care about deeply as well, because if I were like using my phone as if it was an IV in my arm and I couldn't live without it and I couldn't be without it, I would want him to tell me. I would want him to bring to me, listen, I've noticed something. But I think where I have heard Cam talk about, phone addictions in the past, his own experiences, I recognize that he just didn't know what I was doing in these moments.
Yeah.
He didn't know what was happening on the phone. He didn't realize because he's a different person, has different habits than me. He doesn't write on his phone unless it's a short tweet. I write long things on my phone entirely. I hardly use my laptop to write at all, which is very weird. But I will be locked in writing on my phone in some cases for hours. And I can understand how that looks. It may look like if you're not seeing my screen, you don't know what I'm doing. It looks like I'm texting people or something, right? But I'm focused and writing and creating, and I'm using the phone as almost this neutral tool instead of something bad that I feel like I have a negative relationship with. But I understand, knowing Cam's experiences, because we talk about so many different things, that he was using his phone in these negative ways. And so when he sees me texting and off in the corner of my phone, or 10 minutes late to the dinner that he cooked for us, that's where you're going to go, because you're like, oh, where have I seen this before in my life? Back when I had a phone addiction and it looked just like this, and I need to help and I need to fix, and it's coming from love, right? So that's just to share that everything that we experience when something triggers us in our partner, in our relationship, which is our biggest mirror, is just simply a projection of our own experiences.
Oh, let me cook on this real quick.
Please,
okay, so everything we just said if I could have done it all differently, of course, I would not have said anything at 11:30 at night before about to go to bed.
We don't go to bed at 11:30.
Yeah, sorry, that's
8:30. You try to make us look cool.
Make us look normal.
Come on,
we're
now.
Not normal.
It
was the same night we were at the steakhouse at 4 p.m.
Yeah, come on now. 11:30.
11:30. 8:30. But so 8:30 night's way too late for us. Maybe that's a good time for the rest of everyone listening. But with us, that's like midnight. So I would not have done it that time, and also would not have said it that way. Mm-hmm. I think what I would have done to kind of role reverse here of what you've been doing over the next, the past handful of minutes, explaining different ways to go upon conversations. If I felt as if you had a phone addiction and I wanted to bring it up in a way, I think this is how I'd go. Mm-hmm. I'd make sure, of course, that we're in a positive mood, a neutral mood. And I'm like, hey, baby, something's been on my heart recently that I really want to share with you. Is now a good time?
Yeah, sure, baby.
Yeah. I've noticed that oftentimes throughout the day, I see you on the couch or in bed or at your desk, just on your phone. And through my personal experience, I've noticed that a lot of my phone usage is oftentimes doing things that aren't for the highest good, and oftentimes just to distract myself, binge scrolling on YouTube Shorts or Instagram or something like that. And I'm always wanting to make sure that we're living the most happy, abundant, positive lives of service to ourselves and also service to the world. And it's been difficult for me to see you on your phone so much. I just don't understand it that much. And I would love if you were to just like kind of share, like what's your thought process that goes behind how you use your phone? What do you use your phone so much for?
Do me answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand, baby. I know it. I can understand how it looked like that because I am like a little gremlin walking around the house with just my phone, my Diet Coke. And I would be like, what are you doing over there? But I really do use my phone for a whole bunch of things. Majority of the time, I'm writing the captions for our posts and our tweets, and I'm talking to the editors about our videos. I'm talking to really a bunch of different people that kind of push our work forward. And I know it's kind of weird, but I think I picked up the habit of using my phone for more work-oriented things while I was in my last job. So that's kind of where that behavior comes from. But I know that you don't use your phone like that, so I can understand where it'd be a little bit like confusing to see.
Yeah, that makes sense. Honestly, like as you know, I have like a complete separate device that locks my phone on all social media apps because I haven't been able to find yet a good relationship with it to where if I have Instagram me to my phone, that I'm not just spending 4 hours a day on top of that. And to be honest, like now I think about it, you're one of the happiest people I've ever met in my entire life. And like you don't, drag me into talk about politics or anything else that you see on your feed, even if you do see that. And you've told me before about how you set intentions before you go on Instagram. So I guess it all kind of was a projection.
That's okay, baby. I think what's most important to me is that you feel that I'm present with you. So if you do ever notice that we're having a conversation and I am somewhere else, or I'm like looking at my phone while you're talking to me, that's the kind of behavior that I don't want to have around you. So if you ever notice that the phone's impacting the level of presence I have with you, I would really want you to tell me because that's first and foremost what I really care about.
Okay. Yeah, well, I've noticed like every time I try to strike up a conversation with you or something we have planned and scheduled, you're always really present with me the entire time and the phone never gets in the way.
I usually try to flip it so the screen's not visible. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, I did notice that. I'm very grateful for that. You know what? While we're talking about this, let's just like talk about our real stuff right now.
Sure. Okay.
To hear it. What I'm realizing as I'm saying this is so much because this is like a real topic that we've talked about recently. Yeah. And I've realized like everything that I bring up to you is strictly just a projection about what I'm currently feeling. Mm. And so the past 2 weeks, I've been using my phone a lot more than I would have liked to. And so I'm quick to call you out on it. Mm. And another thing that we talked about even earlier in the podcast was that oftentimes the conversation bringing up the pattern isn't the only thing we're noticing. It is the final domino of like, all right, I need to say something.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do this on camera on the podcast.
Okay.
I have felt as if I see the projection side of it, but there's a certain part, I guess, a limiting belief in me that finds it really difficult to see someone that I love and that is going to be the future house for our children to be consuming like a dozen Diet Cokes a day. I'm being like straight up. It's
sorry, that was funny.
And so I'm saying this and then I'll say how I should probably say it as opposed to how I'm saying it now. But that is something that has been on my mind a lot in the past handful of weeks.
Okay.
But as I'm in this current moment, I realize like I've been wanting to do little like healthier fine tunings to my own diet, and I haven't been doing it. And so just like the technology, me wanting to spend less time on my phone, I'm projecting what you consume when it comes to what you eat and drink. What is my shit? I'm kind of projecting that onto you. But it's just like, it's so wild to me how you can be incredibly healthy and incredibly happy.
Yeah.
And putting down a dose of aspartame that would tranquilize a horse every day.
It's just so dramatic.
Like,
it's not true.
I know it's not true.
I don't finish all of the cans.
I've had just such a limiting belief around like being able to be healthy while still consuming certain products. And I feel like it's just not making sense to me in my mind. And it's driving me a little crazy.
Yeah.
And I have like this, when you ask me or when I just like naturally like get you a Diet Coke from the fridge, there's part of me that's just like, why am I doing this? Why am I enabling this behavior?
Yeah.
And that's been such a unique test for me because it goes against everything I've ever been taught growing up from my parents. It goes against my own nutritional ideology, which I'm very passionate about. It goes against so much. And it would be one thing if you were like objectively unhealthy or happy or having all these problems, but none of that is happening. And like you're thriving in every way. And I'm just like, huh? How is that possible? And it's making me question my own beliefs around the food we eat and the things we drink. And it's just these little things about your life that aren't huge things by any means. We have a lot of those that I think we're incredibly aligned in, but there's these certain things that oftentimes just don't sit well with me. But it's not like it's changing your behavior at all. Like you're still present with me despite how much you're on your phone. You're still, like I said, incredibly happy and healthy despite the Diet Coke. And the way you live is making me question so much of what I believe about life that I think at times, other than just reflecting on what I believe to be true may not be the case, I'm quick to point the finger. I'm quick to show these micro feelings of judgment towards you. And so I'm now seeing in this moment that like, these of course aren't deal breakers for me. These are just habits you have that serve you really well, that bring you a lot of joy and also promote our businesses in terms of the phone. And so this feels as if it's a test for me to just be fully at peace with your lifestyle choices and to love you unconditionally. Whether you are on your phone all day drinking Diet Cokes or banish all of them forever, all those things forever. So yeah, I just felt like bringing that up. It's been something that's been on my heart, but again, the most confusing thing is that like it's not affecting you at all in any objective way.
Thank you for sharing, baby.
Thank you for holding the space and give me the space to share in such a loving way.
Of course, baby. I always want you to share those things with me. And that is a pattern because I do drink Diet Coke every single day, have since the day we met. And so this isn't just a one-off thing that he's talking about, just to show we practice what we preach here.
Yeah.
But I wonder what comes up for you when you notice, like you said, the moment where you go to the fridge and you want to, replace my Diet Coke in the Yeti cup. Like what do you feel in that moment?
I feel like I'm feeding you poison.
Mm.
That's what I've been taught that it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still not convinced that it isn't.
Yeah.
And I've noticed for me, it is poison for me.
Mm.
Like I get nightmares when I have a Diet Coke.
Mm.
My body doesn't react properly when I have that. And it's been difficult for me to see you like thrive like no other when you probably drink a similar amount of Diet Coke that you do water.
Mm.
And it's just like, huh?
It just feels confusing.
It feels very confusing, and it makes me question a lot of what I know about nutrition and life. And I think there are some moments where I'm just like, oh, I should really question everything, and she's completely fine. And there's some moments where I'm like, no, we need to stop,
Mm-hmm.
And those same moments where I'm more judgmental about it is reflecting my current feelings towards myself.
Do you notice that every time you go to get me a Diet Coke, you feel judgment, or is it not every time?
I would say it's not every time. Mm. It's only times where I'm feeling my own judgment towards myself.
Isn't that an interesting signal?
Definitely.
Because I feel like I know what you're talking about, and I do think that there's an unconditional love that you show for me in these moments. Like we've talked about it openly, where Cam has a very restrictive lifestyle, and he grew up that way actually. So just to like let you into some Cam Hogan lore, in case you're curious, he grew up basically eating like the same meal every single day. You ate rice, chicken, and broccoli in like very specific portions every day. And he was also put into the hyperbaric oxygen chamber to expand his like brain flow and the oxygen in his brain. And what are some of the other?
I was saying like a lot of supplements and pills every day from like teenage. So
how many?
Like 20 plus at least.
A day, right?
Yeah.
When you were a little kid, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, I can't say I had that experience when I was growing up. I did not have an experience at all. We had like a different meal every day. My mom was a great chef. She would cook, and it was so much variety, and we would go out to like the Olive Garden and, these things that you had a very polar opposite experience to me. And so coming from that place of like highly restricted eating, and I don't know if you were told like messages in your childhood that certain things were toxic or poisonous. Were you told certain things?
Not necessarily. Just it was never around. Like they weren't saying it's terrible for you, whatever it was. It just never was around.
And you felt bad when you ate it because you had so many allergies.
Exactly, because it was never in my diet at a very young age. When things aren't exposed to you, you oftentimes see it as your body sees it as like a foreign toxin trying to attack you. And so its immune system overreacts, which oftentimes causes an allergic reaction. But I've had my own experience where when I left the house, went off to college, I went the complete opposite end where I just eat the normal person diet, probably the extreme of that. A lot of Panda Express, a lot of Domino's, a lot of stuff like that. And I started to notice the health effects that take place from that. My skin was going crazy, gaining weight, just felt terrible all the time, couldn't sleep, just like how a normal human kind of lives nowadays. And I kind of self-corrected my own unique kind of path that even my parents don't follow and others don't really follow. And I've noticed that especially upon like this incredible personal development journey in the past 2 years, a lot of that I feel is because of taking my health more seriously and not eating anything that makes my body not feel great. If it leaves me with less energy than I started the meal, I don't eat it. Everything I eat leaves me feeling more energized and satiated than when I started. And I think that just created a unique relationship with food that oftentimes isn't the healthiest.
Mm.
And maybe, you know, and the more research I do when it comes to understanding the human body and everything else we learn about bioenergetics and physics, that the way we perceive the food oftentimes can have a larger effect on how your body reacts to it, as opposed to the actual contents of the food itself. And so if I think that pizza is poison and then I eat it, it's going to react a lot differently than I see it as a fantastic, nutritious meal with, you know, tomatoes on it and you know, pepperoni, whatever it is. If I view it, even though it's the exact same food, how I perceive it will have a large impact on that food itself. Yeah. And you having a Diet Coke thing, which is like the poison of all poison, according to what I've been taught, and then thriving on it has really just been so confusing for me.
Yeah.
And made me question everything I believe about this stuff.
Well, what is interesting is that, you know, we're isolating the Diet Coke in this situation where health is holistic, right? So I drink our spring water, I eat all whole natural foods. We pretty much eat the same things every day.
Yeah.
And so we go on walks, you know, we're heart healthy, we're active. So I sleep like a rock and like hardly ever have sleep issues.
Yeah, and it almost pisses me off. Like, I want you to be healthy. I want you to sleep, but I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense at all.
I know. It's something's just, you know, and I can understand seeing from your perspective where you're like, how is this happening? Because like I have the kind of cockroach immune system to where I can drink like a Diet Coke at 9 p.m. and fall asleep by 9:10. I don't know how. I'm a very strange operating system within me. And so I know from Cam's perspective, it's like, how is this woman like this? How, like, she's gonna break down eventually. You're probably waiting for like the car to run out of gas or something. I just like hit a wall. I've been like this forever. And it's like, there's...
Can we go on that for a second?
Sure.
I never wish any illness or sickness on you, right. But I have wished for an event that would make you no longer want to drink Diet Coke. Because in that situation, yeah, I'd rather be right.
Right.
Than you to be happy and healthy.
Oof. Yeah.
And I think, sadly, a lot of conversations that are taking place is because of that. We need our expectations. We need our view of the world to stay how it is, to be reinforced, that we don't accept the world or other people just as they are. And I've made a lot of progress on that for the far majority of aspects of life. But this feels like a true test when it comes to the unique lifestyle differences that you and I have. Yeah. Now that we're up close and personal with each other at all times, we notice them highlighted in our minds often. Yeah. And just seeing it as a test and seeing it that the way I look at the world may not be how the world is, it's been huge for me, and something I'm still trying to, as you can see, understand.
Yeah. I appreciate you for supporting me, even though it's something so out there to what you typically do or allow in your life, but you've been nothing but supportive. He's bought me like 125 cans of Diet Coke at one time. He stocks the fridge for me. He goes and gets a mocha with me every morning for our, right after Great Morning, we host this gratitude call. So he's been nothing but supportive of my Diet Coke relationship. I don't call it an addiction. I just have a relationship with Diet Coke. And for me, it feels really good. Like, I don't judge myself at all for this stuff. That's why when he says it to me, I'm like, oh, this is just funny. You know, like, I love myself. I love my habits. I love all the inputs that create my outputs. I am incredibly competent and high performing and wonderful energy to be around. And Diet Coke partially is to thank for that, which is weird to say. But like, I have a lot of Diet Coke every day and I am this person.
I think part of me is saying all this out of envy and jealousy because I love root beer. I love Dr. Pepper. I love all these things.
Root beer doesn't love you.
Apparently not.
See, Diet Coke loves me.
Oh, yes, it does.
It loves me and I love it.
You're keeping that whole empire in business by yourself.
I am a Coca-Cola
or at least I am.
Yeah.
But it's I think part of me would love to drink root beer a dozen times a day.
Yeah.
And not have it affect my body. And maybe it affects my body because I allow it to.
And maybe it's because you judge yourself when you drink it. And I think that that's a core difference I'm noticing in just how you're speaking about it, is that like you've made anything that's not water or a natural drink, like the big bad wolf, that's going to kill you.
I literally like tweeted it yesterday.
See? And so it's like, it's funny to kind of notice that like what we speak or what we are nervous or worried about comes true. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say, oh my God, this drink's going to kill you, well, then what are you doing when you drink it? And then you're sitting there waiting like a sitting duck. Whereas I drink it and I'm just, me, going about my day. I don't even think about it at all. I'm just enjoying every second. And it does not affect me at all.
And it's the point where it pisses me off.
Like, and to be fair, it's totally understandable because it's absurd. It really is. But what I will say too, so one question for you, is me drinking Diet Coke a deal breaker for you?
No, definitely not. Of course not.
Okay.
Of course
but
not.
I will, what I told you is that when I am pregnant, I will not drink it out of respect for you.
Oh man.
I'll quit it when I'm pregnant.
That's huge.
And I will, because I know it's very important to you and I know that you have these very strong beliefs about it. And I'm so appreciative that you accept me as I am right now. But I also understand the health impact and the aspartame. I know all of it. I've read the studies and I understand, and I still drink it joyfully. You know, it's my one thing. How I see it is like, I don't drink alcohol. I don't do any form of drugs. I'm very straight edge. Diet Coke is the one vice that I have. And this is a vice that like most people drink without thinking a second thought about it.
Yeah.
So this is the one thing I have.
Yeah, you married like married, but soon to be married a health freak of a husband.
And that's okay because I love you and I accept you and I completely understand why you feel that way. And I also agree with you. But this is just my one little treat that excites me, makes me feel happy, makes me feel like I just like go about my day like dee. And it's, to me, I've had a great relationship with it since college. And so but I can also acknowledge that it's really important to you and that you do have a concern about how it affect our baby. And so I will not drink it when I'm pregnant. I will quit. And then who knows, I probably won't go back to it because you know me, once I get used to something, I just keep on going on the same beat. I could do the same routine forever.
Yeah.
So as long as I, take the effort to stop drinking it and get over the Diet Coke withdrawals, if you will, then I probably won't even go back. So just see this as my little Diet Coke vacation. I'm just enjoying every day.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also can't like hold you to that. I can't be like, oh, you said you're going to quit once you're pregnant or once, whatever it is.
Well, my intention definitely is to quit when I'm pregnant. That is my intention. And I'm going to do everything I can. I've quit before and I can quit again. It's not a problem for me. It's just something I enjoy.
Yeah, I think I need to see this as a test that it is because it literally does not affect me.
Yeah.
And it makes you happy. And I'm saying I want to take that away. Like, what are we talking about here?
Well, you just want to keep me healthy and safe. That's all. That's where it's coming from.
Of course. And that's where I think all perspectives on our lives from family members and loved ones come. They're all coming from the right place. It's just they're pushing their own ideologies onto you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I don't think you do that for many things, but for this, I definitely feel strongly about. But I'm starting to realize like that's just a limiting belief that I have.
Yeah.
And I see these habits that you have been written in my head, just like with the phone usage, as bad when they really aren't.
Mm. But I understand, baby.
Yeah.
And I love you for sharing it with me.
Those listening to this, I was being very real and raw for this entire time about how I feel. And the way you have responded and reacted to me kind of pointing the finger at some of your favorite things, being like, this is poison. And you're just like, I understand. I love it. How does it make you feel? That's incredible. That's a masterclass for how to de-escalate anything that could have been something bigger.
Thank you, baby.
But yeah, thank you for giving the space to share that.
Well, of course, baby. I think what it's really important to remember is that underneath any of these bids, right, is someone coming to you with something they want to tell you. It's a bid for something, right? It's a bid for affection. It's a bid for attention. It's a bid for your safety. It's a bid in some way. And if you can remember that this person is coming from a place of love and care for you, it will never devolve into anger. If you allow yourself to just take a step back and say, listen, this person is exploring an emotion. They felt something. They're bringing it to me. It takes a lot of courage to do that. I love this person sitting in front of me. I'm going to hear him out. And a lot of the time, what you may have noticed is that if you just let someone talk, they will actually create a full circle argument that will convince themselves that it's not a big deal. Yeah. I didn't really have to do much there. Yeah. I just sat there and then didn't judge him. And here's the thing you can learn from what I just did. Don't interject. A lot of the times, because it's two bulls wanting to be right? It's not about the emotion. It's about, well, actually, no, let go. You don't need to be right.
Let's talk about what you saw on my phone while I was on the toilet.
Oh, oh.
So we're weird. We don't really close the door when we're using the bathroom.
Well, I also we barge in on each other and
like, hey, look at this.
Well, it will just be like, hello, I love you, and then you just walk away. So a lot of the time, because we spend so much time together, as Cammy's my favorite person in the whole world. So we do these just weird little things where there's really no sense of privacy. I mean, we could go on walks by ourselves and we have solitude and things, but like if he's taking a dumpy, I'll just barge in and be like, hello.
She's like,
no, you do that.
Yeah, I do that.
He does that. It's wild. And you act like I do that. You really just did that. So he did that today. He'll like see that I'm
like a dog.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he'll literally sound like a dog at the door when anyone's taking a dump. And by anyone, I mean
what are we gonna say? Yeah, I'm not doing that for random people. Well, we don't really have anyone come to our house
yet.
Yeah.
So
but that's just for her.
So basically, we're just very odd. Yeah. If you guys if a camera followed us in our own home, you guys would be like, what's going on here?
Probably put in a mental insane asylum. Honestly.
It's love on the spectrum.
It's love on the spectrum.
It really is. And so if you know, you know. Cam and I are very special. Yesterday, we went to dinner with our friend Danny, and then we
like, listen, Danny, we're kind of autistic.
We're a little autistic. He goes, no, really? I never would have thought. And we're like, damn, are we really that autistic? What's happening?
Yeah.
But no, we probably are. And then earlier today, Cam Googled, like, is there a test for autism? Because we were going to take it, by the way. There's not. But that's a story for another day.
But we do wake up every morning, like, when we get the whole world, like, let's all say our gratitude.
Yeah.
Great morning, everyone.
We love processes. We love
consistency.
So we have many special interests, and one of them is this podcast and talking about relationships with human nature. So yeah, we really are something. If anyone has any suggestions as to what we may be and wants to diagnose us for fun, feel free to go in the comments, sound off, let us know.
They're about to pop off.
Please. If you don't think it's autism, it might be a flavor of OCD.
Funniest comment wins.
I'm open to that as well. So whatever you guys may think, go ahead, let us know, let it rip. But anyway, here's a fun story. So this all happened, by the way, like this week. So that's why this week was so filled with like funny communication happenings that we were like, this episode needs to be about communication. So Cam is on the pot, scrolling on his phone. And of course, I just noticed that he's like, I can't find him. So I like troll myself into the bathroom and I open the door like a gremlin. And I'm like, hi, baby. And then he's like, hello. And there's like a moment of like panic on his face. And I just like very quickly see his face, look down at his phone, see something that kind of looks like a dating app. And I like close the door. And in this moment, I was feeling a mix of like, oh, like, why did I surprise him so much? Like, is it because he got like caught doing something? And then I started playing a story in my head. So I sat with myself, did the body scan that I taught you earlier. And I was like, you know what? This is something that if I don't say it in this moment, I am going to continue having it in the back of my mind, burning a hole in my heart, in my head, for no reason. So this is something that I would consider in the deal breaker category. right? So if I caught Cam on dating apps actively trying to talk to other women, this would be something I would not tolerate in our relationship, and out of pure respect. So this is when, if you look at like, you're in the moment where you have something like this happen, this could be big or small, you do the body scan, then you ask yourself, is this a good or bad emotion I'm feeling? Very simply. If it's good, voice it always if you're in a relationship. Men love to hear good emotions.
Yes.
If it's bad, you're going to go down a logic tree, okay? You're going to ask yourself, is it a deal breaker? If it's a deal breaker, you need to say something. You have to say something. Now, you want to come from a processed place, right? Like, don't share from the trigger. So take some time, breathe, get into your calmness, approach the conversation from a place of loving calm. But if it's a deal breaker, you're saying something. Number 2, is this violating a boundary? Now, a boundary is just simply something that you put your own expectations and your own reality that make you feel most safe in a relationship. If it's violating a boundary, you're also going to say something. Now, number 3 would simply just be something that upset you or made you feel like, okay, this is like not that big of a deal. I don't even really know what it means. And I'm going to wait for a pattern to develop before I say something. If this happens 3 times, I will say something. Okay. So in the hierarchy, deal breaker and boundary, you're going to say something in that moment. And then the third mysterious category of, this is just something that didn't make me feel good, but I'm just going to let it ride until I notice it 3 times and then I'm going to bring it up. Because again, we do not want to be bringing up negative emotions all the time and processing with our partner. So
did you just make that up on the spot?
Yeah, I did.
You're wild.
Was I cooking there?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So that's the logic tree. Now, here I am. That felt bad. I was surprised. I think Cam was on a dating app. I'm noticing I can't let it go. I'm noticing this is a deal breaker, so I'm going to bring it to him. So 5 minutes later, after I took some space to just regulate, right? Because like I said, I wanted to come from a place of calm.
I finished my bowel movements.
He finished his bowel movements. I did not confront him on the pot, okay? Very important.
Yeah.
I then go up to him in the kitchen. And I get close to him as I always do. And we're just standing together and I'm holding him. And I'm like, hey, baby, can I tell you something?
Yeah, what's up?
So I noticed something and I just want to bring it to you. And I just want you to know I trust you completely. But if I didn't tell you about this, I was probably going to have it in the back of my mind. I just want to share it with you.
Yeah, what's in your mind, baby?
I thought that, when I opened the door when you were on the pot, I felt like you were a little surprised. And then I looked down your phone and I thought I saw a dating app. And I just wanted to talk to you about it because I don't know what it actually was.
Vivi, when you walked in on my phone, I was reading my friend Joe Fair, Modern Primal. Shout out Joe, listener to the pod. I was reading his like Instagram post and scrolling through all like the pictures that he had for that Instagram post.
Oh, really?
So that's what I was doing. I don't have any dating apps on my phone. I mean, you could check if you want, but
no,
that's just
okay, baby. I trust you.
Yeah, I have no need for dating apps. All I need to take care of. But yeah, that's what I was doing on the pod.
Thank you, baby. That makes me feel a lot better. And I don't say this because I want you to feel like I don't trust you or anything like that. I only bring this up because I knew that if I didn't bring it up, it was going to be in the back of my mind and then it would probably come out in weird ways or I'd lash out or just grow some kind of weird negative feeling. So I just wanted to talk to you about it. But if that is ever something that came up in the future or if you had some kind of urge to download dating apps or be on there, like I would really want you to come talk to me about it because that's something I feel really strongly about.
Thank you for coming to me the way you did, Phoebe. Like I feel, as we know through watching our Married at First Sight show, this could have gone a very different way. And I just really appreciate you coming to me as a loving lens and assuming the best while still bringing up something that is so important to you. And yeah, I just want to reaffirm, like, I have no intention of ever downloading a dating app. I have no need for it. And just Instagram. And so,
hey, baby.
But thank you for bringing it up. I know that if you were not bringing it up, it could have turned into something much worse than a line.
Yes.
Thank you. So
that is a role play of a real conversation that we had. It was almost word for word. And what I want to bring up here, I think what's really important is when, as a woman or a man, behavior happens that goes against your boundaries or your deal breakers, and you do not say something, it stays within you and it comes out later. Now, you might be able to get away with holding that within you for a day, a week, a month, but your body will always remember that unprocessed emotion that you did not put voice to, that you did not let that other person in on. And let me say something else. If you bring it up a month from now, he's not going to even remember in any way, shape, or form what happened. This is a big place that people go wrong. They hold this emotion within them and then they bring it up later. And especially for men, this is a very destabilizing because men thrive off of knowing exactly what happened, what they were doing, what were the circumstances. Men need feedback quickly. They need to be like, oh yeah, when I was in the bathroom 5 minutes ago when that happened, I remember that. Oh, I remember what I was doing. Oh, okay. That's how men operate. But a lot of times as women, because we are not in tune with our emotions or do not have the ability to speak our feelings. Now, I learned this, I practiced this. I didn't always have a reality where I was very good at this, by the way. This takes practice, this takes reps. It takes feeling the feeling, identifying in the logic tree. Is it a deal breaker? Is it a boundary violation? Or is it something that just feels a little off that I'm going to wait and see if a pattern develops, right? If you go down that logic tree, that's when you decide whether or not as a woman to say something to a man. Now, because it was a deal breaker and I knew that this would be deeply, deeply hurtful if it was in fact true, I had to say something. If you suppress yourself in that moment, trust and believe, and everybody knows what this feels like. Everybody has probably been in a scenario where they did not say what was a deep, deep, deep feeling that would have had a big impact on the relationship. They kept it down there, and then later on, it's going to rear its ugly head. So that is my recommendation on how you decide whether or not to say something, because you don't always want to say something. There are opportunities you want to pull back, men and women. You feel that feeling on your own. You stop, you watch, you observe for patterns. And then once it becomes an issue, you can talk about it because the other person at this point knows. You know, they know their own behavior. They know when they've done certain things. But if you are bringing a problem to somebody who's only done something once in a blue moon, that's where you create a relationship that has a lot of fighting, has a lot of wars and battles. So that would be my recommendation on how to handle it.
I absolutely love it. I think it's 100% spot on. I think it's very important to make the difference between, is this just a lifestyle thing that I've always known they do, like the Diet Cokes?
Yeah.
Or is this something that they did out of character or out of what is obviously what's best for themselves relationship?
Yeah.
And has there been a pattern of that happening or not? Because I see people say, oh, I got to pick my battles. I can't talk to them about everything I see. But if you go so long where there's many battles in your own head about what's going on, those battles compile into what makes it a war.
Exactly.
And so when all these little things happen and then they're too tired to make dinner, you lash out at them. Not necessarily because of dinner that night.
It's all
the other battles that you're like, oh, that's not big enough. I'll keep out of sight, out of mind. But if it affects you, it's affecting you for a reason.
Exactly.
And when something affects you, there's a lesson to be learned within it.
Exactly.
And the first person on that lesson is the first person to receive that feeling of being affected. And so if you receive the first emotion because of something, if she did something and I feel anger, there's something for me to learn that way. I'm not saying that anything she does is valid or that there shouldn't be a future comes that no longer happens, but I am in full control of how I felt.
Yeah.
And it's time for me to process it before I come to you and say those things. So I think you're spot on. Everything you said is something I think is high quality advice. And I wish I would have understood that, years ago when I first started dating.
Thank you, baby. Well, it looks like we're out of time for today, so we will end there. Of course, this is a topic we could talk about for so long, so we might run it back and do a part 2. Who knows? If there's anything you want us to dive into on more on communication or anything you'd like us to discuss, please drop a little bit of a note in our suggestion box. And we cannot wait to see you for our next episode. Thank you so much for being here with us, lovers. We love you so much, and we hope you have the most amazing week. Thank you for being here, y'all.
Love y'all. See you next time.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for watching that episode. We hope that you enjoyed. And if you want to hear anything more as far as thoughts, insights, or fun conversations, you can find it here, or somewhere all around here. Thank you for being here with us. Bye.
Love y'all.